Hello and welcome to Seeing Spots Backstage. As a pass holder, you get to attend any of my stamp classes. I hold a stamp class on every Thursday morning, most every Thursday morning, at 10 o'clock. So it's that time, so let's begin. Hello, Kat. Glad to have you here. I love it. Kat's here a lot, and I super appreciate Kat being the first one to pop on a lot of times. So anyhow, welcome. So with that we have somebody on, I say it every time, that's my cue to officially begin with good Thursday morning and welcome to another stamp class. Today's class is hashtag Use It Up, and we are focusing on the Meandering Meadows Designer Series paper. And we're focusing on that because I accidentally bought double what I needed. I thought I had ordered, I ordered it and hadn't realized I had already ordered it for a class in the fall. So yeah, I have a lot of that paper. Hello, Jane. Good to have you here as well. Happy when anybody pops on and watches me stamp a little bit. So hopefully you can stick around for a few minutes or maybe the whole thing. Today I have some super pretty cards. I had no idea where these were going and what I was going to do. Sometimes I kind of have an idea in mind, but these just took on their own, and they're pretty. Hello, Barbara. Kat, good morning. Good Thursday morning. Thanks. I like that. That's really cool. And I'm glad to see that the comments are populating at this time rather than an hour and a half into my class like they did a couple weeks ago for a couple weeks. Really a bit of a bummer. Excuse me. Okay, so lots to do today. We're going to make 3 cards. Here's what I'm using today. We're using the Meandering Meadows DSP, and that's the inspiration. And so I mentioned it last week in my Upstyle Your Paper Pumpkin class that I would use the stamp sets that are from that kit. So I've never used a paper pumpkin stamp set in any of my classes, but there's always a first, right? And so I'm using the stamp sets because there were 2 in our Meandering Meadows, or I don't even remember what the name of the paper pumpkin kit was. And it was only last week that I did it. Anyhow, we're going to use those 2 because it came with the stamp set and then they had a free gifted stamp set because March is Paper Pumpkin's birthday month. Okay, enough chit chat. Barbara Campbell, hello. Welcome to you. Welcome to anybody who pops on now or even watches a replay. I'm happy you're here stamping. Okay, here comes the worst part of class, and that's my hand so that I can flip the camera. I wish I were more high tech, but I'm not. Here we go. All right. This is today's class. We are using up the Meandering Meadows DSP. Coming up next week. Next week's class is right here where you are right now. So 10 o'clock Thursday morning, I'm going to do a pickup class. And my pickup class for April is the Lovely and Sweet stamp set and dies. You'll know in March we did the Nature Sweetness bundle. Well, Notes of Nature bundle, but Nature Sweetness sweet collection. That was my class in March. And I sent you guys your kits and you have leftovers. I said, keep your leftovers because we're going to be using them for next week's class. If you don't have these leftovers, but you have the stamp set or something similar, join along. Hello, Claudia. Awesome. Super glad you are here. So that's next week. And then in 2 weeks, I have my Technique Time class. The deadline for registering for this class is April 19th, or when I run out of kits. I am coming up to that or running out of kits pretty quick. Now, you can get kits 2 ways. You can buy a kit and have it shipped to you if you live in the United States, or you can buy a PDF, and I'll email that to you outside of the U.S., even inside of the U.S. You might just want the PDF. Perfectly fine with me. Okay. Or if you place an order on my current host code for $50 or more prior to tax and shipping, you're going to get a Technique Time kit mailed right to your door. And let me tell you, this kit makes 3 gorgeous cards. Super, super pretty. So we're going to be doing some cool stuff with the masks, not just blending through them, but we're going to do something that I've been calling blend knocking. You'll see what that is in a couple weeks. Okay, so don't forget to sign up for that class. You will love it. Let me just share with you that it's a hybrid bundle that has dies, stamps, obviously, and then just awesome masks that coordinate with it. So it's really a cool class, you guys. I think you will enjoy it. That's coming up. Don't forget to order your coordinating add-ons for the next quarter of Paper Pumpkin. So these dies are going to match April, May, and June. And they're called Thanks and Beyond. The number is 164397. They're $12. There's 4 dies in there. You can see the dies here in the flyer. I'm excited for this next Paper Pumpkin kit called Delicate Wings. So the beginning of May 2nd, we will upstyle Delicate Wings. That will not be here in the Backstage Pass. This class will actually be in my public page. Everybody's welcome. In fact, everybody's welcome to these classes too. If you have friends, tell them to join a class and then they're in. Coming up, Lifetime of Love in May. And it's a cool, you can see it in your January to April mini catalog right now. This is carrying over, and you guys, this is so delicate and springy, and I just love the fancy fonts. So, you got some June brides coming up, or, bridal showers, or just pretty stuff. Here it is. We're going to do it. And then I think that's all I'm going to share with you, except I can't wait for you guys to see what we're going to do in May for Technique Time. I can't show you because I can't show you the inside of the catalog. But when you get the catalog, I want you to look up a DSP called Frames and Flowers. I'm going to do something different that I've never done before for a class, and that is I'll be sending you the full pack of 12 by 12 Frames and Flowers specialty DSP. And so this class is going to be super cool. Having 12 by 12 paper, that opens up for some different types of projects. So look forward to that class. I hope you will join me for that one. Okay, let's get into what we're here for today, and that is stamping. I mentioned that I am using up the Meandering Meadows DSP. And hopefully you're familiar with that paper. It's been around. It's an online exclusive. It matches the Garden Meadows bundle, which is their stamps and dies, obviously. I'm not using those today because I've used them before and I just wasn't in the mood. So like I said, I'm using my stamps from that Paper Pumpkin kit and this paper and one other good buddy of mine. And that is... So Timeless Arrangements had a 1-year run in Stampin' Up's catalog. So this is retiring the end of this month, the Timeless Arrangements. While I do enjoy the Builder stamps, because I have stamps from the kit, last month's Paper Pumpkin kit, I'm not going to use the stamps, but I am going to use some of these dies. And as I kind of work through things today, you're going to see these dies. And if you remember them from, we did a class with these, almost maybe 10 months ago or so. But these are just cool. And I felt that they fit the Meandering Meadows DSP. Now, do you need these exact dies? No. Dig through your stash. Use what you have and find some, small flower, wildflower, leaves, and things like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be using. Enough chit chat. Let's bust open this kit and get on with the program here for today. So those of you who have a Use It Up kit, you actually have quite a bit of paper in here. And that's because I had so much of it. So that's why you're getting a bunch of paper, but you'll be able to make some more things even after the class. Okay. And let's see what's in here. I do have some cardstocks in here. You'll notice a couple colors in here that we're going to be using. We are using up Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky because both of these are retiring. So I highly recommend that you If you have these colors of inks but don't have the refills, make sure you get those refills. They're gonna go fast, if not already. So you might wanna pick those up. And then I've also got some Mossy Meadow, Petal Pink, which I think is probably like in my top 5 favorite colors. And some white. And you have a little sheet of glossy dots. These are, I had a bunch, so we're using them up. These are carrying over into next year's catalog. Okay, and here's the DSP. So let's just take a look at these pieces quickly here. And what I want to do first for today's class is we're gonna pull out 3 of the DSPs and cut them down to the size we need so that then we can use the backs of the papers and things for other projects, okay? So let's see if I can find them. This is one of them. We're going to use this one here. So look for this paper. There's a lot of sky. And the path, you know, or the road is over here on the left. The back side is this bright green, okay? We're gonna be cutting that one. This is another one we'll be using is right here. The back of this one is also a green, okay? So let's pull this one out and let's see if we can find the last one. Not it, not it, not it. This is it. Okay, so, and I love this card the way it turns out. So this one here, there's a lot of blue in this, and then the back side is a nice fun mix of color. So let's pull those 3 out. Okay. Now, you might not have these 3. You might still have pieces of, you might have card bases from last month's kit that you haven't used. Use them because you'll see that they don't have to be exactly like this. So, okay, we're going to do some cutting down. Let's cut this one down first since it's on the top of my pile here. We're gonna cut this one down and it's going to be a portrait card, a portrait style card, and I'm actually gonna rotate it sideways and I'm going to make this be, I'm going to cut this down to 5. Is 5 the magic number? Let me see, let me look at my original here. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to spoil the surprise. So it's going to be 5. I was right. I now double check just because, save this. You never know when we're going to use it. So it's going to be 5 and I'll turn it around one more time by 3 3/4. Save this. We're going to use it for sure. Okay, so that's my scene that I'm setting, okay? So now you know how much you're cutting. So that's gonna be one of our cards. Let's look at this one here. This one here, I'm gonna do a very obnoxious measurement here. And I'm going to make this be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is going to be 5 7/16. I know, I told you it was obnoxious. Nope, it's gonna be 5 3/8. 5 3/8. Is that right? No, that's not right. It's a landscape card. I'm totally off. I'm so glad I didn't cut that there because I need all my stuff. I'm gonna measure this one just to be sure. So sorry, folks. Pardon the delay. Okay, I'm back on track. It's gonna be 4 1/8. So we're going to have a 1/16 inch border around this one. I kind of like a little tight border. Notice we're saving these greens, okay? All right, so that was 4 1/8 and it's going to be 5 3/8. Okay, so this will be a landscape card, literally a landscape card. And this one here, which is probably my favorite. This one, we're going to turn it upside down, and this one is going to be 4 1/8. Okay, and I'm going to cut the bottom off. I want some of this lighter, by 5 3/8. Again, we're going to give a 1/16 inch border. Okay. Now save all those pieces because you never know when we're going to use them for something else. Okay, so moving right along, we're going to start with this one because this is the one I just grabbed. And this is going to layer onto a piece of Mossy Meadow. It's a half sheet, nothing crazy and wild. It's a half sheet, so, and then it's scored in half. So 8.5, 5.5, 4.25. Okay, and let's just glue this right on top. So you're going to have a nice tight little border all the way around. I've been liking that sometimes here, a lot of times. Karen says, hello, Elizabeth. So looking forward to your creations today. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. These are, you know, I was mentioning earlier, whoops, the glue is flowing. When I first started with this class, or with any class, I always kind of have some ideas in mind and I can picture them. This one, I had nothing going, nothing predetermined, nothing, nope. So I sat down with the paper and the stamps from last month's paper pumpkin kit and just started creating. In fact, I think last week I even said that this would almost maybe be a continuation of Paper Pumpkin, of Upstyle Here Paper Pumpkin. So here I am. So hello, Karen. And I saw Jacqueline popped on. Hello, Jacqueline. So there's the start, quick and easy. Now, what I have heard from people is they don't always know how to kind of work with these scenes because it's like, well, it's pretty the way it is. And you're right, it is pretty. And you could put, you know, a tag on it and call it art with a greeting. And that would be beautiful. But I'm going to go ahead and zhuzh this up. And I'm just going to basically create a focal point inspired by this piece of paper, the colors, the blending of the inks, or actually it's chalk. The originals were made with chalk. But anyhow, I'm letting that inspire me. And I'm going to create a focal point and layer it on top and not worry about what's going on in this scene. Okay? So don't be afraid of papers like this. So let me just bring in some scratch paper here. And let's start some stamping. My color palette for this card, like I said, inspired by the paper here, is Daffodil Delight, Gorgeous Grape, Fresh Freesia, Lemon Lime Twist, Mossy Meadow, and I'm using that little spot from last month's kit. Karen says, I sometimes think this paper is too busy. Yep, that's right. She says, I tend to steer away from these types of DSP just for that reason. Okay, so I hope after today, you won't be afraid of these styles of DSP. Even if you came in and put a layer on here, this is just the back of a card, you still have some pretty stuff, blends of color coming out all around. All right. So, okay, moving right along. Let's see, what are we going to stamp? The first thing we're going to stamp is, let's stamp this greeting. So this is a die. I mentioned I was going to use the Timeless Arrangements. Okay. And so this is one of the dies. I'm going to use this a couple times today from that set. Okay. And so I've already pre-die cut all my stuff today. And so here is my white label. And I'm going to stamp a greeting on here. Let's see. I think I want the birthday greeting. But why do I not see it? Oh, great. I left my greeting. All right. Well, I think I cleaned it and put it away. Hold on. I have it right here, hopefully. Here's the Paper Pumpkin kit from last week. It was called Memorable Meadows. There's the stamp I want. I wanted the birthday one. Okay. And I wanted the birthday one because I like this. It says, have a beautiful birthday. And we're going to kind of, hopefully echo that within our, what we're going to make here. We are going to make a rather large focal point. And it is going to cover a lot of that paper. Okay. I'm just getting my stamp on the block straight. I usually try and do that ahead of time. And I'm also getting a white handy because I'm going to ink up and then I'm going to be removing some ink here. I could could do the whole tape it off, but nah, no. We're going to ink up in Gorgeous Grape. Okay, ink it up in Gorgeous Grape. I did mention last week that I didn't used to like Gorgeous Grape, but after my last Studio Ink Spots camp with the Cake Fancy, I used a lot of Gorgeous Grape and I now love it. So isn't that funny? Do you have a color that you like once didn't like that now you do? Okay, so I'm wiping off the word birthday and I'm gonna wipe off the Hava. Okay, there's that. Now I'm gonna come in with my garden green spot from the Memorable Meadows paper pumpkin. Or maybe you have. And I'm just coming in there. What's cool about using the little spots is it's not quite like using a marker, but it is small enough that you really can kind of direct stuff. Okay, so now that I have that, and it's been a few seconds since I inked up the word birthday, I just gave a little huff on that. And now I'm going to stamp that and hope for the best right in the center. Okay, so there you have a combination there. That's our greeting, and it's going to come in here. Now I'm going to use my greeting almost as a vase for the flowers I'm going to stamp. So grab one of the pieces of white from your Use It Up kit. And in fact, that's where you're going to either cut yourself a small rectangle. And let me see, this measures, if you don't have these dies, but you could use a punch or anything. This measures 2 1/8 by 1 3/8. So you could cut a rectangle from here or do whatever, you like. Anyhow, so now let's do some stamping. I'm going to stamp, this is my favorite. I love this stamp. I'm going to ink up just the flower heads. Oh no, I'm going to do the whole thing on this one. Sorry, I had to remember what we were doing. Okay, so ink the whole thing up. I don't need the whole stem because I'm going to be cutting it off. So let's just ink that right in the corner of our paper. Okay, see? Gorgeous Grape. It is gorgeous. I don't know why I was so hesitant to use it. Okay, we did this last week in my paper pumpkin class. And that is we're going to do the same coloration because it fits the paper, right? We're going to kind of change things up a little bit from what I did last week. But go ahead, stamp off. I'm letting the weight of the block pull that ink off. Jacqueline says, I'm the same with Gorgeous Grape. So wait, the same that you kind of didn't like it and now you do? Now you're a believer? Okay, so there is that layer. So how many of you are Paper Pumpkin subscribers? If you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, did you know that I have an Upstyle Your Paper Pumpkin backstage pass? Aha. I bet you weren't aware of that. If you subscribe with me or you are a team member of mine, you are a member of that group. It's a small little group, but yeah. Okay, so there's if you remember this is one of the images. Well, there's 2 images here on the block, and these fit the centers of the stamp here. And so I'm going to stamp my centers yellow. Nope. Yeah, I am going to stamp them yellow. I'm like, what color? Yellow. Okay, so I'm going to ink it up. And I'm going to there's a big and a small. It doesn't really matter. Just offloading that color. Okay. Same thing with this guy right here. Cool. All right, so far so good. Now we're going to go to Lemon Lime Twist. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do something. And it might not show up much on this one because I'm going to end up putting some grape in here in the centers. But I'm going to take my Lemon Lime Twist and my stamp. I wish you could see it. I'm not going to hold it flat down. I'm going to hold it on a slight angle so that I'm just using the edge of the stamp to add some color in there. And there it goes. Now it's showing up. Can you see that little bit? And so I've just kind of given it a two-tone look. I've got some true yellow in there. And then with the lemon lime twist, I've kind of made it a little bit more brown. And so use your stamps as paintbrushes, almost to say. Okay, there's that. And we're going to do that again on the smaller flower in a minute. But let's keep going on these. This image here, I'm going to ink this one up. This is the Gorgeous Grape. Okay, so with Gorgeous Grape, ink it up and stamp it off. And just go ahead and align that and pick it up and kind of stamp it off and just I'm kind of marching it around. Not that not that much, but I wanted you to just see, I'm just kind of going. And if it's not right in the same spot, that's okay. It kind of blurs it out and kind of creates, you can kind of see a little bit of that shadow imagery there. It's just a cool way of blending. All right, so next, let's do the leaves. So the leaves I'm going to do in Mossy Meadow. Let's definitely pull in our card-based color and one of the colors from the paper. And I'm going to stamp that off, letting the weight pull the ink off, which gives me an organic modeled look rather than just a straight image. There's that. Super pretty. Now let's go back to Garden Green. I've got so many open ink pads over here, you guys. It's making me nervous. I know I'm going to get it on something. Okay, so here is this funny image here. Okay, this is to add a little design to a little veining in the leaves here. And this one I'm going to barely stamp off. I don't want it too strong, but I'm going to take this and just kind of bounce it back and forth. Again, offloading all the ink and tapping it around and blending it so I don't have as such a harsh line. I think that is, I hope you guys can see that. Trying to get a good, hopefully you can see that, but try that. Let me know if anybody has tried any of that sort of approach with their stampin'. Okay, let's do a little bit more stamping. Speaking of it, here is the small single flower from that kit, and I'm going to stamp this in Gorgeous Grape. So all of my outlines today are going to be in Gorgeous Grape, okay? And I'm going to stamp this flower 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. A lady. Okay, and it doesn't matter where because they're going to be fussy cut. And I'm not going to fill all of these in just for time's sake, but we're going to do some similar colors that we've just used. Only this time our flowers are going to be yellow. So here's my daffodil, okay? And I'm going to use I called it the jelly bean last week. So I'm going to use the jelly beans. These are the centers for the flowers. And I'm going to use the big one. Let me get it in the right direction here. What I meant by the right direction is this jelly bean is a little narrower on one end and it's a little chunkier on the other, kind of like an egg. And I'm going to use this image, just like I did last week, to paint my petals. And I'm starting at the bottom of the petals and I'm offloading ink and I'm kind of tapping upward. Okay? And if it doesn't fill everything in, I'm totally fine with that. I think it has a more of a happening look, a more organic look. I'm also not always hitting the stamp straight down. I'm kind of tipping it backwards and forwards. Again, using this more as a paintbrush. And here you can see where I've got darker color, but it doesn't, it looks more organic, kind of like the way these flowers are drawn. See how the line isn't totally connected and then there's a line over here? Well, that's kind of the inspiration behind the way I've stamped this. Okay, so now for the center of this flower, I'm going to use the small one. I'm going to ink it up in yellow and I'm going to stamp it off. And so I'm going to do a very pale yellow right there in the center of that stamp. And I'm going to clean both of them here real quick. But I'm going to go back to That was daffodil. Now I'm going to move to lemon lime twist. And I'm going to do, whoops, totally put my, I told you I was going to have a catastrophe here. I put my whole side of my finger in lemon lime. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on the center of this one, and I'm on an angle here, and this is where you're going to see it a little bit more. But I'm trying to blend a little bit of green ink kind of around where the center of the flower is, but going into the petals. And this, again, is just creating, yeah, it's starting to build up color. It's just creating an effect that's blended. I don't know that I could do that with blending brushes. Hopefully you guys can see that blended color there. Maybe what I'll do, because I have these already stamped and cut out, is maybe I'll photograph these so you can see what I've done there. But again, I'm using the stamp. I'm not pressing straight down. I'm using the edge of the stamp to kind of color around. All right, so now I'm going to switch to the smaller one, and I'm going to do a similar thing on the leaf here. And so I'm starting at the bottom, and I'm just offloading ink and tapping it all the way up. And you see that, how we've built a little color at the bottom, and then it taps out. So it's kind of a natural ombre using a solid stamp. Okay, so you're gonna finish these two as well. Obviously, I'm not gonna do that right now, just for time's sake. And you're gonna cut these all out. Okay, and so let me show you what you're going to do, what it's gonna look like once you've got them all cut out. Because what I've done here is I've actually separated the flowers, right? And I have the leaves, and I'm actually going to separate these as well. Okay. If you remember what I've said in a few classes so far, that is create your own custom looks by cutting apart your images and rearranging them. So here are my 3 flowers, right? And here are all their leaves. So I've cut them all apart, okay? All right, in the meantime here, we're gonna do a little, I gotta do just a little bit of side work here. And that is, I gotta close all these open pads. Jacqueline says, you are a technical genius. No, I am not a technical genius. I am just passionate about rubber stamping, as you are as well, and everybody who watches. That's why we watch these, right? But explore your stamps, try new things, okay? So everybody's aware. I'll photo that later today so you can see all that. So those are all my pieces, almost all my pieces. Let me show you. I'm going to get a little more help from the Timeless Arrangements. And I'm going to use this die here, okay? And I'm going to use this die, and I'm going to run this through. Let's see here. I have a few scraps left, just a few scraps left. Let's see here. This is from, that's what I have left from last week's Paper Pumpkin Kit. But you can get, if you turn this just right, you can get that in there. And there's also another, hold on. There's another piece that matches. There it is. I see it. I see it. I'm going to get that one right in there. And actually, I'm going to scooch everything in. And if I can get more in, I'm just going to cut as many of these as I can. I only need a few for my card, but I'm all about, trying to use up, as much as I can. So if I put that there, maybe I can get some more in. So anyhow, this cardstock weight purple vellum from last week's kit is cool. I didn't really like it in a rectangle so much, but I do like cutting it apart. So I say customize your stuff, make it all yours. Okay, so I have those done ahead of time. So, and you can see I kind of had to go to the side of the paper, but that's okay. I have those, and I have one more just in case I might need it. Okay, putting my dies away. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have such a mess going on here. If you could see beyond what's right here, in the screen. Okay, let's now layer all of this on our card. So here's our card base. here are our elements. Let me show you where we're going with this. So I mentioned that I'm paying attention to the background. I've used it as inspiration, but I've also really used it as a background paper, and I'm just adding prettiness onto it. So this is kind of, I mentioned that this is going to act as my vase or my base. And so I'm going to add that element to my card first. And look, I'm covering the field of flowers right up. Oh, well, it's okay. Okay, so a couple dimensionals on that. Hello, Valerie. Okay, now I'm going to move this in, and I'm going to come down just a little bit more than I did in my original. I feel like I'm a little bit high. I feel like I could come down just a little bit. And that's the beauty of making a card a second time. You can kind of rearrange things. Okay, this one here. I noticed something here. Okay, so in here, I've got this nice little cutout. I'm going to cut that out as well. You're not late to the party. You're just fine. You can watch the beginning, or if you saw last week's Paper Pumpkin Upstyle class, I did a review of how I've inked up these images to come up with kind of my own look and had some fun painting with stamps using images as paint brushes. Okay, so I've taken that out. I think that's important because that would have been like a white blob in my card that I really didn't want to see. So if you can cut it out, just go ahead and cut it out. Notice I just cut that right apart. You're not even going to notice. Okay. One, even if I put it down, you wouldn't have noticed. You know, they kind of go right back together. But two, I'm going to end up covering it up, right? So these are going to kind of grow right out of there. And let's go in. I'm going to use my leaves next here. And so, let's see, we'll just let me get some minis going here. I often like to put minis at the bases of leaves right there. And then I take my fingernail and I just curl it a little bit so it ends up giving it even more dimension. And so this one is going to just tuck right in there like that. Same thing with this one. Put that dimensional down there at the bottom. Give the leaf a little bit of curl. Not tons, just enough to create a little bit more of, I guess today's word is going to be organic. Okay, let's see. How far do I have that? That's just about right. And next, these are going to go last. I'm going to put in my other three main flowers, which is kind of how I would arrange a, floral design. Okay, well, actually in floral, you would start with your greenery because they actually end up helping you to hold some pieces in place, hold flowers in place, kind of like a frog, if you know what a frog is in floral design. Okay, this one, hello, Nancy. Now, there's a flat spot on the leaf right there where it cut apart from here. I'm just going to cover that up, and now no one's the wiser that there was a funny leaf there. And this one I'm going to glue on because it's going to sit on top of the label here. Oh, but I can't have a stem on it. That's going to look silly. So just go in there and take that stem right off. Nancy, awesome, jumping in to say hi. Hey, I appreciate it. Hello and welcome to Use It Up. Okay, there's that one. Now, I liked these leaves, just kind of adding two things. This one might be a skosh long, so maybe I'll just trim it down just a little bit. Same drill, you guys. I'm going to put it at the base. Do you guys have any things that you do that are like kind of, I just do this every time what do you do that is maybe, just a little, like the way I glue my leaves in? What do you guys like to do? Do you glue in leaves? use dimensionals for everything. Okay. I've got another one right up in here. And I like adding these. I think it adds just a little bit of, I like the little kind of grassiness of it. I think it adds just kind of a little bit of, you know, adds a little bit of texture. Okay, there's that leaf there. Now for these, I'm actually just going to kind of cut these apart. I know there's a benefit to keeping them the way they were, especially when you're layering them directly behind these, but I'm going to spread them out a little bit. So, okay. Now I could do dimensionals on these, or I could do a little glue. I think I'm going to do a little glue. So hopefully this one's primed and ready to go here. I unclogged it earlier today. Oh, yep, it's doing good. Okay. So I have one kind of right in here, softening that edge. So I put glue on it. So I just smashed kind of right in there to kind of get that glue to engage with the paper. Jacqueline says, I usually use glue dots on leaves I tuck under. And if there are any spots I need dimensionals, I add them. Oh, yes. You know, I'm not a super huge glue dot fan because you know, in the last several years, they've been running them the opposite direction than what they were when they first came out. And people are like, well, re-roll them. I'm like, yeah, I guess I could do that. But I found an old spool of glue dots that were rolled the other way at my mom's house. And I'm like, yeah, gold mine. So, and I'm sure you know what I mean. It's just the way they do them now, it's like opposite. Okay, and so we have a little bit of this. It's almost like, you know, just a little floral filler in here with that. And so there you have it. I have one more if I feel like I need it, but I don't think I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it back in my little tray. Last two things. I'm going to tidy up the ship here because it's pretty bad. But the last two things I'm going to add, we have some of the glossy dots, right? And let's look at the yellow ones. I'm going to use the yellow ones on this card. And it looks like it did a nice giant one right up in here. And you could bring it down. So maybe I'm going to do it. So these are more visible, but I'm going to do what I call, you know, the hide and the, you know, the tuck and hide kind of look. And so I'm going to kind of tuck one in there so they're not quite so, you know, in your face visible. And I'm going to tuck another one right in there. You know, it just kind of adds to the sparkle and shine. Speaking of which, she's in the house. Here she is. And I'm going to just kind of decorate the centers of the flowers. Okay, Nancy says, I don't like the new glue dot packaging either. Is that white glue? Okay, I agree with you. Yeah. People say re-roll them. Save one of those rolls, save one of the circles from the end of a glue dot, and then roll a new one on there. I just have not figured out how much time that's going to take me and if I want to. But going to this is inside here. This is just one of those precision glue dispensers. You can buy these like 12 packs. You fill them with whatever glue you want. So they don't come with anything in them. Anyhow, yes, right off of Amazon, and it's the liquid glue in there. So, and I love this. And I have to keep pins nearby to unclog my glue because where I live is kind of dry. So, and everybody, well, not everybody, but I'm sure if you've been around enough, you know that that's one of my woes of Boise is the dry. Okay, so there is our first card. Can you post the link for us? Yes, I can. I'll have to go back and see what I bought, but they were fairly inexpensive. And I think, you can buy them as 12s. You can buy them it just depends on the vendor you buy them from. 24 packs, that sort of thing. And I think they might be it's interesting, some of the things you can find in other, other crafting, and I won't say crafting because, tattoo is a craft, but like inking things, think outside of rubber stamping and paper crafting, and you can kind of find other tools that are, bookbinding, like I said, tattooing, that sort of thing. And there's some cool tools in there that we can find and use that would benefit us. Okay, so that was our first card. Our second card, let's see. I think I'm going to go out. I'm going to do this. We're going to do this card next. So we already cut our paper down. Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate that. So let's see. Jacqueline says, you've bought some before and they didn't work as well as yours. Okay, I'm going to have to go back in and I'll find that link. I think it's a matter of, they are fairly inexpensive, is, just kind of keeping that tip clean, just maybe even keep a pin inside the little dispenser, the little tip. Okay, so this one we are going to use, we're going to use our card base here. Card base is petal pink, and it is half a sheet of cardstock, hot dog style. And so it is 4 1/4 by 11. And you know what? I don't even know what my score lines are here, but we're just scoring. We're making it so that it's going to be a gatefold. It is going to go this direction. It's a portrait card. And you just, divide it so that you have 4 1/4. I will tell you that mine is, so this first score line is at 3 1/2. And then 3 1/2, yeah, and then this one is the leftover. My ruler's not big enough and my brain just does not want to compute math. Who's good at math? Anyhow, so just make it offset. You could make it right in the middle if you want, but, just make a gatefold. It doesn't have to be so scientific. And I'm going to use, let's see, this is Orchid Oasis. And for this Orchid Oasis, I am going to trim this down to matte on size here. Now, on here. Now, you could use the Orchid Oasis, or you could use the Starry Sky, because you have a Starry Sky quarter sheet in your piece as well. It just depends on what you want to do. I think for this one, I'm going to use the Starry Sky, because we're not going to use the Starry Sky on anything else, but I'm just showing you, you could do that one or that one. I guess I should take an opinion poll. What do you think, folks? So my original is that, or do we want to bump it up and go a little bit more dramatic and go for the Starry Sky? This is also, when I said I didn't have any pre-designed ideas in my mind, this was letting the paper tell me what to do. And I wouldn't normally put Orchid Oasis with Petal Pink, but I did because it's right here in the paper. It's saying, hey, Elizabeth, put this combination together. Okay, no one has said anything, so I'm going to use the Starry Sky. And I'm doing a fairly tight matte on this. I don't want a lot of Starry Sky showing. Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen was the first to pop in with the darker blue. Jacqueline says, Orchid Oasis, the only color I'll miss from the in colors that are leaving. Maybe Starry Sky too. Yeah, this wasn't, I like the two blues, the Orchid and the Starry Sky. The others, I didn't really gravitate to them at all. Okay, so this card base here is 3 1/4 by 5. So I'm going to cut this. This is going to be an obnoxious measurement here. So if you're looking at, I don't want it to be 4 inches, okay? I am going to go 1 tick mark before 4 inches, which is actually going to be 3 15/16. I told you, obnoxious measurement, which means this one is going to be, so that was, we did that. Okay, so this one is going to be, I think, yep, it's going to be 5 3/16. Is that right? Yeah, just making sure. So 5 3/16. You know, I know a lot of times we just use, halves and quarters and eighths. I'm starting to use these 16ths. just because I kind of sometimes like these tighter mats, if you know what I mean. Okay. Oh no, that's okay. I thought, oh no, I put glue on too soon. No, this is okay. It's my other card that we're going to emboss first. I just have to remember, don't let me forget to emboss before I glue it to the base of the card. Okay, so there's my tighter mat, just like that. And it's going to go on my card base, but you know, pants have pockets, cards can too. So bring out your circle punch. Mine's a very old 1-inch whale tail from many, many catalogs ago. I mean, I don't even know how many years it's been since we've had whale tail punches, but just take a bite out of that to create an engagement notch. And now watch how I'm going to do this. I'm going to flip my card over. I'm going to flip it over this way. I'm going to kind of hold it on my card so I can see where that gatefold is. And that's how I know how high up I'm going to add glue. Or I could measure, but that takes too long. Now flip it back over and layer your panel on your card base here, just like so. And there you have it. It's a gatefold with a pocket, and it opens, and you've got that pocket on top, okay? So you can tuck in a gift card or money, or, as my grandma did, a stick of gum. I've said it before. They were cute. And it was always like Wrigley's, the spearmint, the white pack. Okay, so there is our card base. Easy. We've got it going. Now we're going to do some stamping, similar to what we've done, only this time, what I want you to do in your pack of papers here, flip them over, and you're going to look for this piece here. So the front of this piece has a lot of daisy type, you know, I'm not even sure what flower this is, but you're looking for a yellow one. It's very pretty on this side. Don't think that this is the only side you can use. These are great papers too. But I thought this kind of almost looks like a wood grain. Hey, let's knock it off, Livy. So with your pink paper, you grab my scratch paper again. We're going to stamp my favorite stamp, this one right here. And we're going to stamp in Blueberry Bushel. All right. So our ink colors for this particular card, let me grab them all so that we have them. We're going to use Blueberry Bushel, Melon Mambo, and Fresh Freesia. Now, since we're using Starry Sky, you could use Starry Sky if you wanted, but to me, Blueberry Bushel is a sister color of Starry Sky. You could also use Orchid Oasis, but Blueberry Bushel is what I had out. That's what I'm going to use. Okay, now, need to give this a... Hey, don't come in here and bark. So, Newell cut the lawn for the first time since all the snow has been gone. And so now my dogs, 2 of them have, white legs. They're totally green from the grass, and it's wet outside. I'm like, oh, you guys look funny. They look like they have green socks on. Okay, so you see I'm not inking up the whole stamp because I'm just going to stamp the flowers. And I'm just going to stamp them in the corner here. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Sorry, folks. Okay, I digress. This is the piece of paper you're looking for, but I have one already that's partially cut up. So I'm going to save that one. This is from because I always give myself 2 kits, one to design the class and one to show the class, right? So I'm going to use this one here, and I'm going to stamp right here on the bottom. And so by the time we get this cut out, it's almost like these are going to look like they're wood grain. And you'll get where I'm going with this in just a few minutes here. Now, I'm going to use the DSP as part of the color of the flower. I'm not going to color the whole thing in. I am going to color in. I'm going to use this inside piece here. I'm going to use Fresh Freesia on this. I'm going to lightly stamp off, and let's just align this. And I'm going to do the whole tapping it back and forth walking off all that color. Okay. And so it leaves just a tiny bit of color in there. Can you see that? And so if I want it maybe just a little bit more intense, I'm just going to do it again. The beauty of this type of a technique is you can kind of keep layering the color on to get it to the desired level of color intensity that you want, rather than having it just like be blaringly, you know, super strong. I like it. It's very subtle. It's an unusual look. Let's do the center. The center is here. We're going to get a little bit crazy and we're going to go Melon Mambo. Now, how did I decide to use Melon Mambo on this card? I'll tell you why in just a second. I'm going to stamp that off because I can always add more color. And I'm going to add my center to the flowers here. If I want it stronger, let's see, do I want it stronger? Yeah, I'm going to take it a little stronger. Just stamp off again. And add a little bit more. And I'm just tapping it off. She got your dog's attention? Yeah, I don't know what they're barking at. They're just kind of, you know, now that it's nice weather, there's all kinds of people walking by. And they have to go charging outside to bark. Drives me nuts. Okay, so how did I come up with my color palette for this card? So my color palette is inspired by these tiny little flowers that are in there. And they're kind of a bright berry burst color. And so that's why I selected that berry burst. And then the fresh freesia, obviously, from here. And then this is kind of a repeat of the path in a way, right? So with this, you're going to cut out just the flowers. And I've done that ahead of time here. So here are the flowers. They're ready for my card. I've got this one. I can make another card later if I wanted. So that's going to come into here. And again, we're going to do the same layout we just did. Not the same, but it's kind of a sister layout. I'm going to create a vase with one of the dies here. So this time I'm going to use, this one's a little bit, it's a little teeny bit longer, but it's also narrower, okay? That was what I was looking for, Karen, brown-eyed Susans. All I could think of was hollyhock. And I'm like, that is not hollyhock at all. But that was the word that just kept coming to mind. Yes. Or cornflower was the other one I couldn't get out of my mind. So thank you, brown-eyed Susans. Kind of look like I wonder if they're in the daisy family. But anyway, I don't know. Anyhow, okay, what are we stamping? We're going to die cut a label in white. And I hopefully have that. I do. Here's one right here. Okay, here's one in white. So die cut that from your Timeless Arrangements. And we're going to be doing some more die cutting with that in just a second here. But I want to put a greeting on here. And I want to use the greeting that says, "You've been on my mind." But it doesn't fit in here, so I'm going to customize my stamp. So make sure your stamp is clean. Make sure it's dry. And let's see here. My original, what color did I stamp? I don't even know where my original, here it is. Oh, I did the blueberry bushel for my inking up. So let's bring in blueberry bushel. And real easy here, because it's photopolymer, I'm going to ink up the "You've Been," and hopefully I didn't get anything on the O. I'm just going to go in there and wipe nicely, get that cleared away. And this is just going to go, I'm just putting it in the center. "You've been." Now give your stamp a good cleaning. Dry it off, because that sometimes will carry ink as well. And then "On my mind." Okay, make sure there's nothing on that. Check it before you wreck it, right? And now simply just add this one right below it. And hopefully I'm pretty straight. That looks pretty good. I'll go with it. Okay, so just like I said, similar to the other one, we're creating a sister card here, but different. This time I'm going to use I have some of the leftover wooden elements from my Memorable Meadows paper pumpkin kit. And I just kind of liked the way that this paper, I knew I wanted to use one of these, and that's why I went to this paper here, is I like that this kind of looks like wood grain, and this actually is wood. So that's kind of our difference here. But we need to add lots of leaves and things to this to soften this up. And this is where this paper can be extremely cool and helpful. Let's bring in our papers here and look for designs. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the front or the back, but let's look at, let's look at this piece here. So while this is a really pretty piece of DSP that you could, use either side, I'm not even going to use this as, a layer. I'm going to use this to die cut certain, I'm going to die cut this piece here a bunch of times, and I want to pick up the pink. Okay. So in order to do that, I'm just going to put this, you guys, I have 2 full packs of Meandering Meadows, so I don't care if I blitz an entire piece of 6x6. But if I die cut like somewhere right there, I'm going to end up with something pretty like that. Okay, so to me, organic has been the word for the day. What's cool is I couldn't color it that way. So what do you do with some of this really beautiful paper? Cut it up and turn it into leaves and flowers and twigs and wildflowers and things like that. And you'll find that it looks really cool as we start to kind of layer these pieces in. And because it's part of the paper, and yeah, it's a little bit muddled right now, but it starts to all come together and it all works. Okay, so I'm gonna die cut that piece a couple times, maybe even 3 times, just so that I have enough stuff. And so you can see I've done it in different places on the Designer Series paper. Looks like I've even gone in and caught a little bit more, just a partial one, so I have that die cut. Get rid of the scratch paper here. So we have those. And I also want some greenery going in here. So let's see. Remember those scraps that I said save those? We're going to use those because, and this is why we cut all of our pieces at first. So we had these and we'd be able to use some of these sides for die cutting. Okay. Again, you could use this side as well. This side, that would be really pretty, but I want some green, and I think I want this nice dark green here. And so I'm going to grab, there's this die that's also in the Timeless Arrangements. You guys remember these? So I'm going to cut this one. And there's the cool thing about these dies is each of these dies has a matching single element. So I'm looking for, here are the leaves. And if you've jumped on a little later, this is Timeless Arrangements. This is not going to be carrying over into next year's catalog. So grab them now while you can. They're fabulous little dies. So, and the reason they've got this like bar on them kind of coming across, right? That's so that you can easily add them without cutting them apart or anything right to the back of a label here. But of course, you know me, I'm going to do it a little different. Okay, enough chit chat. Grab your thingies. Here they are. So I've got these cut out a couple times. So I've got some greenery. Notice this one got cut off. That's okay. This one's perfect. And I think that's about all I'm going to need for this one. So I'm just going to set that aside. Excuse me. Tuck those in there. Okay. Now let's assemble. I have plenty of things here that I can start to assemble. However, I know what's missing. I want to add ribbon to this one. And so this has been sitting on my desk and it's a piece of boho blue. And so I've already trimmed off one side of the boho blue. And now I'm trimming off the other side of the boho blue, which leaves me with this kind of funky, ugly center section of ribbon. I am going to use up that funky, ugly center section. Okay. I'm just finishing the cutting of this though. Just like that. Just, you didn't need to see me do the whole thing. Now I'll save that. I'll use it on something maybe, or maybe not. But what I want to do is take my fingers and distress this. And it's really going to, this piece of ribbon is really going to get quite flimsy and it's going to start to fall apart big time. Okay, so I'm just kind of, and if I do too much and too hard, it will really start to fall apart, but I am distressing it enough that it's just getting kind of almost on the luxurious end of things. Okay, let me swipe all this stuff aside. And I'm just going to do like a faux bow behind here. Let's see. Kind of like a Zorro swoosh kind of knot. We'll do that on here. So let me use a little bit of Seal or Seal Plus. I'm just going to do it right here on the path, because everything's going to kind of center on the path. Okay, let's see here. Let's just kind of go midway right in there, and we'll have well, I feel like I need to go up just a little bit, and we'll have a swoosh coming down. So just stick it right in there. And now I feel like I went too far. Here a little, there a little. And we'll come back the other direction. Hello. Find a sticky spot. Okay, now I'm going to pull some of the threads out and give it a little fringe end. That's the beauty of this ribbon, and using just the inside, we've taken away the the binding that's on each side. And so now we can, look at that, we can just pull that right out and create these fun little tassel ends. Okay, but we'll get all the leftover fibers here out of the way. Okay, so right now it's kind of ugly-ish, but that's okay. It will get pretty here in just a second. But I just really enjoyed the boho blue color with all of this. So don't think it always has to be the exact coordinated colors that they list. Go ahead and mix and match. So we've got blueberry, starry sky, boho, orchid oasis. You know, we could easily pull in night of navy. Just that, all of those analogous colors in there. Okay. Now this, we're going to offset it to the side just a little bit. Okay. And kind of fluff your bows where you want them. That way your dimensionals kind of help hold them in place as well. Hey, Bosco, go outside and bark. Sorry, folks. Oh, he's got such a... Stupid dogs. So a man just sauntered by with his two little dogs, and rather than my dogs charging out there, they're like, no, we're just going to sit on the sofa and bark from here. Brats. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off. It's just a little bit more stem than what I want. Okay, yeah, you just chop that wooden element right up. And I'm going to put a little glue on the back of this, because this certainly doesn't need dimensionals. And, that's not where it goes. Shoot, Queen. At least my dogs aren't the only dogs barking. There are other dogs in the neighborhood. Okay. And so this is going to kind of swing over. I know it's kind of in a weird spot right now, but just bear with me. This is going to come in here, and it's going to look great. Okay, right about there. Okay, perfect. Now I can see that I'm going to need a dimensional over here on this side. And my original, I used a different leaf, so that's why I'm kind of going, okay, wait, where is my glue? Where is my... you notice there were two types of leaves in that kit. Okay, and so this is going to kind of layer right in there. And I'm going to give my flowers just a little bit of lift. Now we have all of this fun, cool stuff. And I'm going to customize my dies here. I'm just going to clip that leaf apart because it actually ends up hiding and I don't want it to hide. But this, you're just going to kind of tuck inside there. So we have some foliage there. So that's where it's going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get some glue on that. I'm really excited for this next card that we're going to do. I'm like, oh, saving my favorite for last. Yep, Kayleen, you're here in plenty of time. We've done a little bit of review from last week. So there are those leaves. Where's the one that I just cut off? There it is. This one, I'm going to do my method of mini dimensional on the end of the leaf. That end's not going to show. Give it a little curl. And I'm going to tuck it. It's kind of where it was on the die, but I had to pull it out a little bit because you couldn't see it. And let's see, I'm going to do just one more piece of this. I'm just going to snip this one off. You can see how this would easily work to use really any flower set, you know, and any leaf dies. Just use what's in your stash. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to wiggle this. My ribbon's in the way, but I'm going to wiggle this right in here. Okay, and then we have our pieces that we cut directly right from the middle of our DSP. And I'm just going to start to, and I'll clip these apart, but I'm going to just kind of tuck them here and there. And this addition of this berry color just kind of brings up the centers of our flowers. And then these little flowers that are down here, sprinkled in and around. So we'll just get some in there. Whew, it's starting to come to life. I'm loving it. Get this one. And I'm just going to take some of this excess off. Okay. And let's get some pink kind of coming into here. And I feel like I've got some bulk issues happening, meaning I've got an up and a down. So I might need another dimensional in there. I'll catch that later. I like this one right here. I'm going to use this. And we'll throw a little bit more right down in there. And I think it's filling out nicely. Yes, Kayleen, these dies are timeless arrangements. They are retiring. I've used them on all of the cards. So our first card, I used it, and I'm using them again on this one, and I'll use them a lot on our next card here. Okay, so I've got some massive, what has made this? Oh, I see what it is. I can't do a dimensional. It was getting bulky and weird because this dimensional is making everything too fat, too lopsided. So I'm just pulling the dimensional off. And I'm just going to use glue because it was landing on top of the wooden and it was just making things too crooked. Yep, they are retiring, which is a bummer, but I have them, so I'm glad. Okay, there's that. I think I am going to do... I like this leaf right here, and I did it on my original, and it will help hold this corner up. I'm going to put one more leaf right down here in the corner. Yeah, I feel like this set didn't get a whole lot of, didn't get a whole lot of airplay, so to say. Okay, that's all I'm going to do with all of my fun craziness here. Kind of pat some of that down. I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella, which on this paper looks fabulous. It just brings these two main flowers here to life. Okay, and then it's fairly dark paper, so hello, I'll go and splatter it. And if you remember the glossy dots, look, we've got that bright pink that will be a great match to really bring out some of this bright pink on our card. And so I'm gonna set one there. That's the large. So you have 3 sizes in these. You have small, medium, and large. And they are pretty flat. They're not totally flat, but they're pretty flat. That's the medium. Here comes the small. Kind of tricky to get off the little paper here. There we go. We'll do that one right there. So there you have it. Here's my original that I was working off of. You can see it's a slightly different shape leaf, but you know, use what you have, use them up. That is card number 2 for today. Now, and I'll show them all again at the end. Now let's go on to my favorite. Oh my goodness, you guys, this is so pretty and it's so different than any other card. Okay, so we already pre-cut this at the very beginning of class. And what I want to do is kind of make this look more like a canvas print. Go through your embossing folders. I don't even remember the name of this embossing folder. I don't know if you can quite even see the pattern in it, but you know, if this was canvas or burlap, anyway, something very neutral, kind of tight and small, maybe go way back to the subtle embossing folder. Any of those could be, you know, work great. Even the one from the basics online folders, the one that's kind of the crosshatch, that would work. But I like this one. I am using my stash, folks. Just because it's retired doesn't mean that it's hot lava and we can't use it anymore. Kayleen, you are so smart to start labeling the folders. I've started to save the packets. I didn't used to. To me, it was garbage trash, but that packaging does. It says what it is. So yeah, you have to keep it around. Okay, so this is a 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to use plate 1, the folder, and then I will put plate 4 on top. And I'm going folded edge or hinge edge through first. I try not to break that rule and always go with the hinge first, but occasionally you have to. Okay, so look at that. Do you see all that yummy texture? And now it kind of looks like it's been printed on canvas. Yay! Okay, this is going to go on our Orchid Oasis. So we're using up Orchid Oasis cardstock here. But look how pretty this Orchid Oasis is underneath this. Super, super pretty, super easy. Okay, so I'm going to glue that to my card base. Look how pretty that paper is. So you can find the Meandering Meadows DSP in the online store. Let's talk online store. Online exclusives, online store. So Stampin' Up! Has what they call a blended storefront. They have a catalog where you can shop from, and they have an online store from which you can shop. You like that grammatically correct English there? Anyhow, it's cool. You've got to go to the online to know it's there, because it's you know, might be sold out. It might still be there, but it's kind of fun. And our new catalog coming up is going to have you with QR codes and with little icons, like shopping bag icons. It's going to send you to the online store so that you can see that blended storefront. Okay. Yes, I agree, Kayleen. I can't remember the name of it. For the life of me, I'm like, I know it was not in it's not in our catalog this year. I think it retired last year. Anyhow, okay, there is that. Now, I'm like, okay, I want to do something different. I don't want to do, you know, like the same thing. Those are pretty, but I've been inspired by the way these flowers are and grasses are just kind of growing and blowing this way. So we're going to emphasize that. And let's see here. With our DSP, I'm going to use this nice dark green, and I'm going to make just a strip of paper. So this is the front of the page, okay? And this is the back. It's pretty peacock, and man, it's just a great, when I tip it this way, it looks blue. You're getting the blues that are in it, but there's a lot of green in it. Now, I have a sheet that I used from my kit, and so I'm going to use that piece rather than cutting into a full. And I am going to cut a piece. Let's see, how wide is, I'm just going to cut a strip that's going to be 5/8 of an inch wide. So I want a 5/8 inch wide piece. So that's pretty narrow. 5/8 wide by 5, just under 5.5, because if you remember, our DSP was just under 5.5. We just did a tight little frame. And so this is going to run down my card like that. I'm actually going to put it on dimensionals, but I want to use up, I have one of these tags left from the Memorable Meadows kit. And so I'm going to stamp this with the heartfelt thanks. If you remember, I had to snag it off of a block so that we could put this one on. Okay, this is the only stamping I'm going to do for this particular card. And I'm going to stamp it in Blueberry Bushel. And I'm going to pick up on the gold line that's on the top of this label that's part of the kit. See that skinny gold line? So here's my layout. I'm going to kind of, it's not going to be crooked like that, but at least you're kind of seeing where I'm going to go with this. But I want to play up that gold line. So I went through my stashes of paper, and I have a little pack of, it's just some gold dazzle, or gold glimmer rather, and then we have the dazzling details paper that has some kind of champagne and some gold. So I'm using up what I have. Yeah, it is kind of like a shirt pocket. That's funny. Something textile. Oh, tasteful textile. Ding, 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 ding. Very good, Jacqueline. Yeah, it is the tasteful textile. Okay, so this is going to come in here like this. So I mentioned I had some paper. I am using up so much of my paper here. You guys, this is just like less than an 1/8 inch wide, but more than a 1/16. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue it to my green piece here, just to mimic that. Again, be inspired by some things, and they'll lead you to a new look that you weren't even planning. That's why I said I didn't really plan these cards in my mind. I just kind of let the paper tell me what to do. Paper said, looks like wood grain. So go ahead and, you know, add a wood flower or a wood leaf in, you know. Okay, I'm having to do a little unclog here. Hopefully that will do it. If I don't keep it directly upside down, it has a tendency to glue itself pretty tight. Okay, so just a teeny bit of glue. And my stripe here is on one side, so I'm not going to go right down the middle. I'm going to kind of be inspired by that and go down the one. Let me move it over just a skosh. Okay, can you hear my neighbor dog? At least my dogs aren't barking. Usually it's my dogs, right? Okay, now let me just trim this little piece off, just like that. And then with this whole piece, I am going to put dimensionals down this because I want it to be raised up. So here we go. A 1, 2, 3. I guess I could have raised it with a piece of cardstock, which is sometimes a smart idea because then the cardstock gives it a little more stability and some dimension. But we'll go dimensionals here. Okay. And this, I'm going to run this from top to bottom, right about, I'm going to move it over just a little bit, right about there. So it's just a little bit more than the width of this is, okay? So I'm still showing off the paper. And then this is going to set right there. So I'll add that with dimensionals on one side. Actually, I'm just going to do kind of one dimensional right there for right now. And I'm going to do a little glue on this side. Okay. And now this is going to just sit kind of right about there. Okay. Just like that. So now I can still see my paper. I'm still inspired by my paper. And now I'm going to die cut my paper using those same timeless arrangement dies. I'm going to use kind of a mix of all of them this time. The leaves, I'm going to say it kind of looks like millet in a way. I don't know. It's a wildflower. Here's another kind of wildflower. And yet still another. So just have some fun. It does not need to be this particular set, but let's go in and look at our scraps here. And do we want to use some of these greens? Yeah. Here's another good one to use. That will be a fun color to add some color into the leaves that I'm going to add to my card here. Here's one more. I'm going to use that. And I've already used up my piece from my kit and from my previous one. But, you know, just section a side off, go, gosh, I'm going to use this side, so I'll die cut out of this side. But I've used these colors here to die cut a bunch of pieces. So let me show you what I've got. I've got some of that. So that's some of that purpley color. There's more of, I did a bunch. You're not going to need this many, but just cut yourself a bunch so you have a bunch of things to work with. Here are the leaves. They could be that side, but that's the color we're going for. And then look at these. So here was kind of the pinkish peaches color, and then there's the blue and purples. Okay. Yes, Kayleen, it is a mix. I'm using up, because this, the whole reason I selected to use up Meandering Meadow, one, I had a bunch of it, DSP, and two, it is coordinated with our last Memorable Metals Paper Pumpkin kit. So yes, I'm just kind of using up some of these pieces. Okay, now what I want to do here is just add these, and you can, you know, cut them apart, and my dimensionals are in there, but they're not going to stick out like that. But I just had fun just adding in, and maybe I will kind of lift this up just a little bit so that I can get under there. Okay, so I just have that lifted up so that I can come into this and do a little, you know, just adding these. And see, you lose this little leaf here, so I'll clip that off again. But I'll show you my original here in just a second. So I just had fun layering all these pieces in here. Kind of put them in the little windows. Or maybe this one's going to go this direction. Okay. And we'll come in here. This is what really brings it to life, is this beautiful blue flower. Anyhow, these are going to kind of come in there. And you're going to end up with, I'm not going to show you yet because we need one more piece. This is the word love. This is from the Love of Spring dies that has matched the January, February, March Paper Pumpkin subscriptions. So I cut it from my Gold Glimmer. And I'm going to add this. And then I will show you the original so that you don't have to sit here and watch me try and tuck all of these under here and fight I mean, it's really pretty. You get the idea, right? But you'll see the finished look here. So I'm just adding a little glue to the word love here. And you don't need a ton, but it's the placement of this that I think is super pretty. I'm just going to really bump that. Oh, come on. That's because my hands are sticky. What else is new? Okay, so you're going to get them in. You're going to have them spraying out from the heartfelt thanks as well. And when you finish, you have something a little like this. So you can kind of see where all of those are coming out. So it's just, I've been inspired by the way the flowers and grasses are blowing in this particular DSP. But we need to finish this one up. I will finish that up, off camera. You don't need to see me do all of that, right? But what does bring this to life is, you guys, there is a wink of Stella, like splatters in here. Oh gosh, you just can't see them. But it just, with the tasteful textile embossing folder here, it picks up and it puts them in different, nooks and cracks and crevices and puts them on bumps, and just give this a really good splatter. And then even go in and paint a few. I'm going to paint the lighter flowers. Pick one and paint those so that they kind of pop and stand out. And that's exactly what I did on this one. And then definitely you've got those glossy dots that you can add in. Okay. And let me show you. This one just got a piece of white inside, but let me go back to our first card or our second card. I don't know what it was. And one of these, let's see, I think it's going to be this one here. This is my original. This one, I did do a little stamping on the inside. So just repeating some of the techniques you saw. So I painted these flowers with the jelly bean stamp. All right, just like we did on the first. So there's our wood cut inspired. This is the paper blowing, the canvas print. And then going back to our very first card was this one here. Just creating a nice vase of, just a nice bouquet. Oh, you know what I noticed? This one has some colored twine in there. I didn't do it on this one. To twine or not to twine? Let me know what you like better. All right, so use up and don't be afraid of designer papers that are like this. Just design right on top of them and go with it. Or be inspired with it and go with this one's kind of a go with the flow, so to say. Anyhow, Kat says, definitely thinking outside the box. Never would have thought to give these papers so much attention. I tend to do clean and simple. You are so artistic. Thank you. It's being kind of, motivated and inspired by different products. And sometimes, when we go to Paper Pumpkin, we don't always, because we don't know what it's going to be, you're just kind of surprised. And it does take you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. But I think it makes us all kind of blossom into different types of stampers. Karen says, beautiful there. Oh, just beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, I will share. I will take photos and get these posted. I am taking requests. When your new catalogs arrive, be sure to, and I'll put a poll up once that catalog does come out. And, you tell me what sets appeal to you, what papers appeal to you. And so that we can stamp together, continue stamping together. All right. Kayleen says, my favorite card is the last one. You are killing me. So cool. Valerie, thank you. Elizabeth, you are always so inspiring. Well, thank you. I do. This is my favorite one too. Jolinda, these are great. Thanks for the morning gathering. Barbara, love these. So glad I just ordered the dies. Gives me ideas. I'm telling you, these are great basics. Even though they're not a basic shape, naturally they are a basic shape. And they're a nice size. They're not overly huge. So when you need to do something a little more delicate, you've got it. Yes, I agree. I like this one a lot. All right. So thank you, Jacqueline. Name of the dies again. Timeless Arrangements. These were the dies I used and combined them with the Meandering Meadow. All right, folks, I will catch you later. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm always happy to help. See you next week. Bye-bye.